Commander Elias Thorne had faced countless dangers in his life, but nothing prepared him for what lay ahead on the planet Violia. The sky burned a strange violet, jagged storms tearing across the horizon, and the winds carried a sharp taste of iron that made his mouth dry. Humanity had only recently established a small outpost on Violia's surface, a thin strip of metal and glass clinging to the side of a rocky plateau. Beyond the outpost lay wild lands, untamed and uncharted, where strange creatures lurked, and the storms could shred a ship to pieces in minutes. Elias was on a routine supply mission, navigating the rocky canyons in a small exploration shuttle with his crew. The mission had been simple: deliver medical supplies to the outpost, check on the automated weather stations, and report any anomalies. It was supposed to be another calm day. But then, the shuttle's instruments picked up a signal, faint at first, then growing stronger. It was not like anything they had encountered before. A distress signal, yes, but its pattern was strange, irregular, almost alive. "Commander, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Mara Voss, the shuttle's navigator, her voice tight with tension. She pointed at the holographic screen, where the signal pulsed like a heartbeat. Elias frowned. They had orders to ignore stray signals from the wild lands. Many of them were natural phenomena, some were hostile alien devices, and others simply traps left by previous explorers. But something about this signal gnawed at him. "Set a course," Elias said, his voice calm but firm. "We are going to find the source. Be ready for anything." The shuttle descended into the canyon below, lightning crackling overhead as the storm raged. The winds tried to push them off course, but Elias' hands were steady on the controls. The canyon walls seemed to close in on them, jagged rocks that could tear through the shuttle's hull with a single misstep. Then, through the swirling violet rain, they saw it, a crashed ship, half buried in rock and dust. Its design was unlike anything human technology had ever produced. Curved lines of silver and translucent material shimmered faintly, pulsing as if the ship itself were breathing. Elias' heart quickened. He had trained for combat, for disaster, for alien encounters, but nothing prepared him for the sight of the figure crawling out of the wreckage. She was tall and slender, with skin that glowed faintly in the storm, translucent and shifting in color like liquid glass. Her eyes were wide and luminous, deep pools of light that seemed to peer directly into his mind. She moved with a grace humans could not hope to imitate, each step precise yet fluid. "Princess Kellara," Elias whispered under his breath, reading the faint markings on her vessel. Somehow, even at this distance, he knew her title. He had studied alien races as part of his training, and the Sarathi were a species both revered and feared across the galaxy. Their civilization had lasted thousands of years, their technology advanced beyond human comprehension, and their psychic abilities had made them the most enigmatic species humanity had encountered. But Kellara was dying. Her body shook violently, and she clutched her chest as a dark fluid leaked from a wound in her side. Her ship's energy core flickered weakly behind her, the life support failing. Elias knew that if he did not act fast, she would not survive. He signaled to his crew to hold position and prepared himself for a decision that went against all protocol. Medical protocols forbade direct biological contact with alien species in such emergencies. There were too many unknowns. Human blood could kill her, alien fluids could kill him, but he could not stand by and watch her die. He could see it in her eyes, a silent plea, a desperate hope that someone would help. Elias drew his sidearm, but quickly realized it would not help. Then, almost instinctively, he grabbed a medical kit and cut his palm. Red blood welled up, stark against his skin. He extended his hand toward Kellara, speaking softly, hoping she could understand him. "Take it," he said. "I'm offering my blood. It may help you." "Please hold on." For a long moment, nothing happened. The wind howled, rain pounded the shuttle, and Kellara's body convulsed. Then something extraordinary occurred. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter than ever before, and a pulse of energy seemed to flow from his hand into her body. Her breathing, shallow and erratic moments before, began to stabilize. The dark fluid slowed, then stopped. Lieutenant Mara gasped. "It's working, but how?" That should have killed her. Elias did not know the answer. He could feel something unusual, a warmth that was not his own, a rhythm in his veins that mirrored hers. For the first time, he realized that humans were not just surviving, they were adapting in ways no one could predict. Something fundamental had changed. A link had formed between them. By the time Kelara stood, weak but alive, the storm had begun to subside. She looked at Elias, her luminous eyes studying him with an intensity that made his own skin tingle. There was a recognition there, a silent understanding that transcended words. They were bound not by choice but by necessity. Back at the outpost, the scientists monitoring the mission were stunned. Dr. Leona Miles, the chief xenobiologist, could hardly believe her eyes. The readings were impossible, human blood reacting with Scifi biology in a way that enhanced life rather than harming it. This shouldn't happen, she muttered repeatedly. No known biology in the galaxy should respond like this. Elias and Kelara had survived the initial crisis, but neither fully understood the implications. The bond created by his blood was not simply a medical miracle. It was something new, something unknown. Kelara could now perceive human emotions and intentions, sensing every flicker of doubt, every spark of courage. Elias, in turn, experienced flashes of her memories, vivid visions of Scifi history, their wars, and their philosophies. It was overwhelming, confusing, but also enlightening. For a brief moment they were alone in the valley, two beings from vastly different worlds connected in a way no one could comprehend. Kelara's voice, melodic and strange, finally broke the silence. "Your blood, it saved me, but I do not understand." "Humans, you are fragile, yet strong in ways we did not know." Elias smiled faintly, exhaustion etched on his face. "Fragile? Maybe. Strong? Maybe that's something humans have always been, even if no one else notices. Sometimes it's the courage to act when there's no guarantee of survival that makes us strong." She studied him closely, then nodded. There was an unspoken agreement between them, a recognition that their fates were now entwined. Neither could ignore the bond, nor the possibilities it created, but not all eyes were friendly. Unknown to them, distant satellites of the Scifi Council had detected the event. For them, this human interference was unprecedented, unpredictable, and dangerous. They had long viewed humans as a primitive species, incapable of understanding the complexities of Scifi life. Yet here was Elias, a single human, altering the destiny of a princess and potentially the course of their civilization. Elias had no time to consider politics. The immediate challenge was survival. Kelara's ship was irreparably damaged, and the valley was exposed to the elements. They would have to return to the human outpost quickly, navigating treacherous terrain and unpredictable weather. Yet every step they took, Elias could feel the bond strengthening, an almost tangible pulse linking them. He could sense her pain, her fatigue, and even her thoughts. Kelara, for her part, seemed fascinated by human determination, their ability to improvise and endure. By the time they reached the shuttle, night had fallen. The storm had passed, leaving a sky filled with swirling stars, alien constellations that humans had only begun to map. Elias guided the shuttle carefully back to the outpost, Kelara resting beside him, her luminous skin casting a soft glow inside the cockpit. Once inside the outpost, they were greeted with a mixture of awe and fear. Scientists rushed to examine Kelara, their instruments and scanners whirring as they tried to make sense of the human-alien bond. Elias stepped back, watching as she moved with regained strength, yet still marked by the trauma of the crash. He realized that no one truly understood what had happened, not yet. Kelara turned to him, her voice soft. "Your blood, it is different from anything I have known. I feel connected. I see things in you." Elias nodded slowly. "Humans are simple in some ways, but we survive. We adapt, and sometimes when we reach out, we do what no one expects." For the first time, Elias felt the weight of what had happened. It was not just a rescue. It was a beginning. Humanity had always been underestimated, dismissed as fragile, unprepared, and naive. But here, on this storm-swept alien world, a single act of courage had proven that humans could influence life in ways no one anticipated. And as Kelara rested, her breathing steady, her eyes still glowing faintly, Elias realized that the journey was only beginning. The bond between them was more than survival. It was evolution, a bridge between species, a test of what humans could truly offer to the galaxy. Outside, the violent storms of Violia raged on, but inside the outpost, a human and an alien princess shared a quiet moment of connection. No one could predict what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Humanity had once again defied expectations, not through technology or weaponry, but through courage, empathy, and the simple act of offering one's own blood to save another life. And somewhere deep in the universe, forces far older and wiser than humans watched, curious to see what this fragile, daring species could do next. The days after the rescue felt surreal for Elias. Life at the Violia outpost continued in its usual rhythm, but nothing about it seemed normal anymore. Kalara, the Sarathi princess, had recovered remarkably fast. Her body, once frail and flickering like a dying star, now moved with a grace and strength that astonished everyone. Even more extraordinary was the way she interacted with humans. She seemed to sense emotions without being told, anticipating needs and understanding intentions in ways that no human had ever experienced. Elias watched her closely. He could feel it, an invisible tether between them, a subtle vibration whenever she moved, spoke, or even thought. It was not just empathy, it was something deeper, something neither of them fully understood. For the first time, Elias felt the reality of the bond. His own heartbeat seemed to sync with hers, his thoughts occasionally mingling with hers in fleeting flashes. At night, when the outpost was quiet, he would see visions of her memories, glimpses of Sarathi history, of battles fought long before humans had ventured into space, of cities built from crystalline towers and floating gardens that defied gravity. Kalara noticed it too. She approached him one evening in the med bay, her glowing eyes dimmed to a soft silver in the low light. "Elias," she said, her voice melodic yet firm. "I see your thoughts sometimes. It is strange. I feel your courage, your doubts, even the small hopes you try to hide." He shrugged, trying to appear casual. "It's strange for me too. I never imagined I'd be connected to someone like this. Human or alien, it doesn't matter. I just feel like we're linked somehow." The scientists were equally amazed. Doctor. Leona Miles had been studying Kalara nonstop since her arrival, analyzing her physiology, her energy patterns, her response to human blood. Every reading defied logic. Normally, Sarathi and humans were incompatible at the molecular level. Human blood should have been toxic, Kalara's body should have rejected it. Yet not only had she survived, she had strengthened. More than that, the bond seemed to be evolving. "Commander Thorne, Doctor," Miles said one morning, her tone a mixture of excitement and caution. "Your blood, your DNA, is interacting with hers in ways I've never seen. It's as if your life force is amplifying hers. It's creating a symbiosis. If this continues, humanity may have a unique role in Sarathi biology that we never understood." Elias frowned. "You're saying what? That humans can make Sarathi stronger?" Dr. Miles nodded. "Not exactly. You have triggered something rare, perhaps evolutionary. It's as if human resilience, our adaptability, our survival instincts, can fuse with Sarathi physiology. Kalara's strength, her perception, even her psychic abilities are all enhanced. But it's unpredictable. We don't know what the long-term consequences are." Elias leaned back, trying to process it. Humans had always been underestimated across the galaxy. Every encounter with alien species had proven it. Humans were often dismissed as primitive, fragile, or reckless. But now, in the heart of Violia, Elias realized that what humans lacked in technology, they often made up for in courage, adaptability, and sheer unpredictability. Kalara herself was learning to control the changes. She could sense emotions in subtle shifts of voice, in the tension of a hand, even in the briefest hesitation. She could anticipate danger before it arrived, dodge obstacles instinctively, and heal more quickly than anyone could have expected. Yet with every improvement came the realization that she was no longer fully Sarathi. The bond with Elias was altering her, shaping her into something new, something neither human nor fully alien. One day, the bond revealed a startling capability. Elias had been walking through the outpost corridors, thinking about the repairs needed for Kalara's ship, when suddenly he sensed a presence, an intruder in a restricted lab section. His heart raced, and before he could react, Kalara appeared beside him. She had somehow sensed the same danger, her body moving with a fluidity that matched his instincts. Together, they confronted a group of humans attempting to steal alien technology. Without exchanging a word, Elias and Kalara moved in perfect synchronization. She disabled the intruders with precise energy pulses, while he restrained them physically, their combined efforts faster and more effective than anything human protocol could have anticipated. The scientists were astonished. "It's like they're connected, Doctor." Miles whispered to her assistant. Not just biologically, but tactically. Their movements, their instincts, they anticipate each other perfectly. Elias didn't care about the accolades. All he cared about was Kalara's safety and the safety of the outpost. He had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. And in this moment, he realized that humans and Sarathi could achieve things together that neither could alone. However, the Sarathi Council was not pleased. Far above the planet, in their crystalline towers orbiting Violia, the elders had been observing the bond with growing alarm. Humans, they had always believed, were unpredictable, dangerous, and incapable of understanding the complexities of Sarathi life. Yet here was Elias Thorne, a single human, influencing the very physiology of a princess and potentially the destiny of their species. The council convened urgently. "This human interference cannot continue," said Elder Voran, his voice echoing across the chamber. "If his blood has created a bond with Kalara, it may alter the evolution of our people. Humans are not meant to play with Sarathi life in this way. We must act before the consequences spread." Meanwhile, Kalara was beginning to embrace the human qualities she had once observed from afar. She admired their courage, their determination, and their willingness to risk everything for others. In private moments, she would watch Elias as he trained with the outpost team, noticing the way he adapted to challenges, the quick thinking that allowed him to survive in hostile environments. She found herself learning from him, mimicking human strategies, blending them with her own Sarathi instincts. Elias, too, was evolving. He experienced visions that felt like memories but were not his own. He saw the rise and fall of Sarathi empires, the long wars fought with energy weapons and psychic powers, the peaceful civilizations built in orbiting cities above gas giants. These glimpses were disorienting, sometimes terrifying, but they also offered knowledge he could not gain from books or training. Humanity had always valued courage, yes, but now they had an edge in wisdom, gained through experience that transcended species. The bond also had unintended effects. Kalara sometimes spoke in fragments of Elias' language without understanding how she knew it. She could mimic human gestures, predict human behavior, and even feel subtle changes in human emotions before they were expressed. In one instance, during a routine supply drop, Elias noticed she had already prepared for a malfunction before it occurred, her hands moving to adjust the shuttle's controls before anyone else realized there was a problem. It was clear now that the bond was more than healing, it was evolution. Humanity was being recognized not just as survivors but as catalysts, able to influence life in ways no one had predicted. And for the first time, Elias felt the weight of what that meant. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, believing them fragile and primitive. But now, on Violia, a single act of courage had proven that human potential could surpass even the most advanced alien species. Yet danger was never far. Messages from the Sarathi Council began arriving, subtle at first, then increasingly urgent. They warned that Kalara must return immediately, that humans must cease contact, that the bond could have catastrophic consequences. Elias understood the warning, but he also knew that abandoning Kalara now could be fatal. She depended on him, and the bond they shared had already altered both their lives in ways that could not be undone. One evening, as the violet storms once again swept across the plateau, Elias and Kalara stood on a balcony overlooking the outpost. The wind carried the scent of rain and ozone, and the distant mountains glowed under the alien sky. Kalara turned to Elias, her eyes a soft, pulsing light. "I have learned much from you," she said. "Humans, you are strange, you are fragile, yet you endure. You are reckless, yet precise. You do what others cannot. I understand now why your species survives in a galaxy that underestimates you." Elias smiled faintly, feeling both pride and humility. "It's not about being the strongest or the smartest," he replied. "It's about courage. It's about adapting when everything seems impossible." "That's what makes humans human." Kalara nodded slowly, her gaze distant. "And perhaps that is what we need, not just strength, not just technology, but courage, and you have shown it in ways no Sarathi could predict." The bond continued to grow, subtle but undeniable. Kalara's strength, her perception, her abilities, all were enhanced by Elias' presence, by his courage and his blood. Elias, too, felt a shift within himself, a deeper understanding of life, resilience, and the universe beyond humanity. They were no longer simply human and alien. They were something new, a hybrid of courage and wisdom, a bridge between species. The outpost scientists began to prepare for what they called Phase 2 of the bond. Experiments, tests, and studies would follow, not to exploit Kelara, but to understand the potential of human influence on alien physiology. They knew the implications were enormous. If this bond could be replicated safely, humanity could no longer be underestimated. Humans could offer the galaxy more than just survival. They could offer evolution, adaptability, and hope in ways no other species could. And yet, as Elias gazed at the distant stars, he knew that the real test was yet to come. The Sarathi Council would not accept these developments quietly. Rival alien factions would see humans as a threat, and there were forces in the galaxy far older and wiser than either human or Sarathi that would watch this bond with suspicion, curiosity, or fear. Elias turned to Kelara, feeling the subtle pull of the bond between them. "Whatever comes next," he said quietly, "we face it together. Humans survive, we adapt, and sometimes we change the course of history." Kelara's hand rested lightly on his shoulder, her glowing fingers warm against his uniform. "Then let us see what this bond can truly do," she whispered, "for the sake of both our species and for the future we may create together." In that moment, the storms of Violia felt less threatening. The wind howled, the rain lashed against the outpost walls, and the alien night shimmered with strange colors. But inside, a human and a Sarathi princess stood united. They were bound not just by survival, but by potential, by courage, and by a connection that neither species had ever known before. Humanity was no longer underestimated, and the galaxy was about to discover just how dangerous and extraordinary they could be. The first true step of their journey had begun, and no one could yet predict the outcome. The peace that Elias and Kelara had begun to feel was fragile, like ice over a deep chasm. Violia's skies, once merely violet and storm-tossed, now carried the eyes of distant ships, Sarathi observers and unknown vessels from rival factions. The Sarathi Council had sent warnings, but the bond between Elias and Kelara had grown beyond their control. It was no longer just a connection. It had become a power that could influence outcomes, tip balances, and even alter lives in ways few could predict. It was during a routine supply drop that the first real test came. Elias and Kelara were moving through a valley to inspect an energy relay station when the wind shifted, carrying a faint hum beneath the storm. Elias' senses, sharpened by the bond, detected something immediately. They were not alone. Kelara stiffened beside him, her luminous eyes narrowing. "They are here," she whispered, her voice almost a vibration felt as much as heard. Before Elias could respond, the terrain erupted. A group of armored figures appeared, their armor glinting with strange energy fields that seemed impervious to human weapons. Elias quickly realized these were not standard Sarathi guards. They were insurgents, rebels who had rejected the Council's peace efforts, seeking to exploit Kelara's bond with humanity for their own advantage. Their leader, a towering figure named Vorin, stepped forward, his presence radiating menace. "Princess Kelara," he said, his voice low and commanding, "you belong to the Council. You cannot stand with humans. Hand him over and perhaps we spare your life." Kelara's eyes flared. "I am not property," she replied, her voice steady, though her body radiated tension. "And he is no threat to me. You will not take him." Elias instinctively moved in front of her, the bond pulsing like a warning through his veins. He could feel her strength, her readiness, her fear, but also her determination. This was more than a fight. It was a test of everything the bond had created. The first attack came without warning. Energy beams streaked across the valley, melting rock and igniting small fires. Elias ducked behind a boulder, motioning Kelara to cover. But she did not need direction. Her hands moved with precision, generating a force field that deflected the blasts, her body glowing as the energy danced across her skin. Elias felt the rush of power through the bond, his muscles responding almost instinctively, his mind calculating trajectories and angles that no human could normally process. The rebels advanced, but Elias and Kelara moved as one. He used his training in human tactics, improvisation, ambushes, and distractions, while Kelara used her enhanced abilities to counter, strike, and protect. The valley became a chaotic battlefield, yet somehow their actions were synchronized, perfectly complementary. Each move Elias made amplified her abilities. Each strike Kelara unleashed gave him insight into her alien instincts. In the heat of combat, Elias realized that the bond was more than a connection. It was evolution. Human ingenuity combined with Sarathi physiology created a new form of tactical superiority. He could anticipate enemy movements. Kelara could act before threats even became visible, and together they formed a force that was far greater than either species alone. Yet Vorin was not easily defeated. He was powerful, a master of Sarathi combat and technology, and he had planned for Kelara's resistance. Using a hidden device, he unleashed a wave of psychic energy, targeting the bond itself. Elias felt it immediately, a pressure in his mind, a pull that threatened to sever their connection. Kelara gritted her teeth, her body glowing brighter as she fought to maintain the link. We cannot let him break it, Elias thought, his own determination surging through the bond. If this ends, we both die or worse. Kelara understood instantly, and together they focused, their minds and bodies acting in perfect unison. She extended her psychic reach, shielding them both, while Elias countered with raw human courage, forcing himself forward even as the energy wave threatened to overwhelm him. The bond held, stronger than Vorin anticipated. With a sudden surge, Kelara projected a wave of energy that struck Vorin's shield, breaking it momentarily. Elias seized the moment, rushing forward and using his tactical skills to disarm the warlord, knocking the weapon from his hands with precise, controlled force. The rebels hesitated, unsure how to respond to this combination of human and alien power. Elias and Kelara did not pause. Together they pushed the intruders back, moving with speed, intelligence, and raw energy that no single species could replicate. The battle ended as suddenly as it had begun, Vorin and his forces retreating, but the aftermath left both Elias and Kelara shaken. They returned to the outpost, where Dr. Leona Miles and the other scientists were waiting, anxiously monitoring the incident. The readings they had collected from the battle were astonishing. Not only had the bond survived a direct psychic assault, it had amplified their abilities beyond known limits. Human courage, unpredictability, and improvisation had fused with Sarathi physiology to create a combination neither species had experienced before. "Commander," Dr. Miles said, her voice a mixture of awe and concern, This is beyond anything we imagined. Your bond has altered Kelara in ways that could change her species or even humanity. But the Council will not take this lightly. They see this as a threat, not a miracle." Elias nodded grimly. "I understand, but we can't let fear dictate our actions. We survived the storm, we survived the bond, and now we have to survive the politics. The galaxy will not underestimate humans again, but it may try to destroy us." Kelara studied him, her glowing eyes softening. "You have taught me much," she said. "Not just survival, but courage. You show me that humans do not rely on strength alone, but on spirit. I trust you, Elias, and I will fight with you whatever comes." Their trust was tested almost immediately. The next day, an urgent alert came from the outpost's long-range sensors. Multiple alien ships were entering Virelia's orbit, unmarked, unidentified, and hostile. Elias quickly realized that Vorin's retreat had been a diversion, a call for reinforcements. The planet itself was about to become a battlefield. Kelara's eyes glowed with intensity. "They seek to capture me. They seek to exploit the bond. We cannot allow them to succeed." Elias placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Then we fight, but this time we fight smart. We are stronger together, and we have allies here, humans who will not abandon you, just as I will not abandon you." The battle that followed was unlike anything the outpost had ever faced. Ships streaked through Virelia's sky, energy weapons firing across the alien landscape, missiles tearing through the thin atmosphere. On the ground, Elias coordinated human defenses, directing small teams with precision and improvisation. Kelara moved like a force of nature, her abilities amplified by the bond. She projected shields to protect human forces, struck with energy that could disable multiple attackers, and sensed threats before they materialized. Elias marveled at their synergy. Every human tactic he used, every decision made under pressure, was magnified through Kelara's alien perception. Together, they became more than human, more than Sarathi. They were a fusion of courage, strategy, and raw power. Yet, even in victory, Elias understood the danger. Every act of defiance, every display of their combined strength, drew attention. The Sarathi Council would be watching, rival factions would be calculating, and the galaxy at large would begin to recognize the threat and potential of humanity. After the battle, Kalara and Elias surveyed the aftermath from the outpost's observation deck. Fires still burned across the landscape, smoke drifting into the violet sky. The human soldiers and scientists were exhausted, but alive. Kalara's glowing form moved beside Elias, her expression thoughtful. "This bond," she said quietly, "it is more than survival, it is evolution. We are something new, something neither species can define, and yet we are vulnerable. There are those who would see us destroyed for it." Elias nodded, his jaw tight with determination. "Then we make sure they don't succeed. Humans survive because we adapt, because we never give up, and because we fight for what is right. We will protect this bond, and we will protect you, Kalara, no matter what comes." The bond between them pulsed faintly, a reminder of the connection that had begun with a single act of courage, a human offering his blood to save an alien princess. It had grown into something neither could have predicted, something that had already changed the course of their lives and potentially the destiny of entire civilizations. And as night fell over Violia, Elias realized a profound truth. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed as fragile, reckless, or naive. Yet here, in the heart of an alien storm, a single human had become the catalyst for a change that could ripple across the galaxy. The universe was beginning to notice, and it would soon have to reckon with what humans could achieve when courage, determination, and empathy combined. Elias and Kalara stood together, their eyes fixed on the horizon, knowing that the greatest trials were still ahead. The bond that had saved Kalara's life and altered her very being would face its ultimate challenge. Rival factions, political intrigue, and forces beyond their understanding would test not only their survival but the very essence of what it meant to be human and what it meant to be Sarathi. Yet Elias felt no fear. The bond was strong. Humanity was strong. And together they would face whatever the galaxy could throw at them. The journey had become more than survival. It was a testament to human courage, adaptability, and the extraordinary potential hidden within a species so often dismissed. The night was quiet for now, but Elias knew that it would not last. Storms were coming, not just in the skies of Violia, but across the galaxy. And when they arrived, he and Kalara would be ready. For the first time, humans were not merely participants in the galaxy. They were catalysts, capable of shaping destiny itself. And the universe, vast and indifferent, would never forget it. The galaxy held its breath. Word of the bond between Elias Thorne and Princess Kalara had spread faster than anyone could anticipate. Across distant star systems, whispers of the human who had altered the destiny of a Sarathi princess reached ears both curious and fearful. Some saw promise, others saw danger. The Sarathi Council, finally forced to acknowledge the power of this bond, convened an emergency session. Messages arrived at the outpost, demanding Kalara's immediate return, warning that further delay could lead to consequences far worse than exile or imprisonment. Elias studied the messages with a heavy heart. Protocol dictated obedience, diplomacy, and caution. But the bond between him and Kalara was not a choice made by any council or treaty. It was born from courage, sacrifice, and trust. Elias could not and would not allow her to be taken. The bond had already proven its strength, but now it would face its ultimate test. Kalara approached him, her glowing skin dimmed slightly by exhaustion, but her eyes alight with determination. "They will come," she said softly. "The council, their enforcers, perhaps even rival factions. They will see us as a threat. They may try to destroy us both." Elias placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Then we show them what humans are capable of, not just in battle, but in courage, in strategy, and in unity. We survive, Kalara, and we win together." The first sign of the attack came as a deep rumble across Violia's plateau. From the skies descended ships, sleek and angular, their energy weapons pulsing with intent. Vorin had returned, leading a coalition of insurgents and rogue Sarathi forces. His goal was clear: capture Kalara, sever the bond, and claim the power for himself. Elias and Kalara moved swiftly, coordinating with the outpost defenses. Human soldiers took positions behind armored barricades, their weapons ready but their confidence shaky against such overwhelming alien technology. Kalara, however, was a force of nature. The bond between them pulsed with energy, guiding Ilia's tactical decisions, enhancing Kalera's perception, and allowing them to anticipate attacks before they materialized. The first wave of enemy ships descended, firing plasma beams that cut across the valley. Kalera projected shields in synchronized waves, deflecting the blasts while Ilias directed human artillery with precision. Every move was calculated yet instinctive, a seamless dance of human ingenuity and alien power. Soldiers watched in awe as the duo moved together, anticipating each other's actions with a synergy that seemed impossible. Then Vorin himself appeared on the battlefield, his presence radiating raw power. He wielded a device designed to disrupt the bond, a weapon capable of severing the connection that had made Kalera stronger. Ilias felt the warning pulse immediately, a tug at his consciousness, a sensation of being pulled apart. Kalera staggered but did not fall. The bond, however, trembled under the force. "We cannot let him break it," Ilias thought, determination surging. "If this ends, everything we've fought for dies." Kalera's eyes met his, and in that instant understanding passed between them. The bond was not just physical or psychic. It was trust, courage, and unity forged in adversity. They had faced storms, insurgents, and battles together. This was the moment that would define them and perhaps humanity itself. With a coordinated surge, Kalera channeled her energy through Ilias' presence, amplifying both their strengths. He moved with calculated precision, anticipating Vorin's attacks and directing the human soldiers to exploit weaknesses in the enemy lines. Kalera struck with power and speed, disabling enemy vehicles and shielding allies, her every action guided by the bond's rhythm. The battlefield became a blur of light, energy, and movement. Vorin unleashed everything he had: psychic blasts, energy waves, and advanced weaponry, each designed to overwhelm and sever the bond. But Ilias and Kalera adapted. The bond pulsed in response, a living link that turned each attack into an advantage. When Vorin sent a psychic wave to disrupt them, they countered by synchronizing mind and body, converting the energy into a force that pushed back the attackers. At one point, Ilias found himself standing on the edge of a collapsing bridge, enemy fire cutting through the air around him. Kalera's energy field pulsed, lifting him just enough to avoid disaster. He realized then that the bond was more than survival, it was evolution. Humanity had always survived because of courage, ingenuity, and adaptability, and now those traits had been amplified by alien physiology. Together, they were unstoppable. Vorin, realizing that brute force would not win, attempted deception. He sent holographic doubles of Kalera to confuse Ilias, hoping to sever the bond through disorientation. But Ilias, relying on instinct and the subtle guidance of the bond, recognized the real Kalera. With a single, decisive maneuver, he reached her side, reinforcing the connection, and together they unleashed a wave of energy that disabled the remaining drones and rebel forces. The battlefield fell silent. Smoke and dust filled the air, and the sun, or what passed for sunlight on Vierlia, cast long shadows across the plateau. Vorin and his remaining forces had retreated, defeated but alive. The humans and Kalera's allies regrouped, exhausted but triumphant. Ilias and Kalera stood together, their bond still pulsing faintly, a testament to what they had endured. The outpost scientists rushed forward, scanning and measuring, but all their instruments could do was confirm what Ilias already knew. Human courage, when paired with the right catalyst, could achieve the impossible. Kalera turned to Ilias, her glowing eyes soft but filled with intensity. "We have won today," she said, "but the galaxy will not forget. Our bond, it has changed everything. Humans are no longer simple, fragile beings. They are capable of more than anyone imagined." Ilias smiled, his body tired but his spirit alive. "We survived because we adapted. We survived because we refused to give up. And we survived because we fought together. That is what makes humans human." The Sarathi Council, observing remotely, had no choice but to acknowledge the outcome. For the first time, they could not dismiss humanity as weak or reckless. A single human had not only saved a princess, but had altered the course of a species' destiny. Council members debated in heated voices, some seeing potential for alliance, others fearing the implications of humans wielding such influence. Kalera addressed the council, her voice calm and authoritative. "This bond is not a threat, it is a bridge." Humans have shown courage, adaptability, and ingenuity. They have proven themselves not through conquest or domination, but through empathy and action. To dismiss them now would be a mistake no Sarathi will ever recover from. Elias felt the bond pulse in agreement. He had always known humans were underestimated, but now the galaxy had seen what courage could accomplish. Humans were not just survivors, they were catalysts for change, capable of influencing life and destiny in ways that no other species could predict. The outpost scientists began documenting every detail of the bond, aware that this was the beginning of a new chapter. If the bond could be understood and applied safely, humanity's place in the galaxy would be forever transformed. But even as they worked, Elias knew the bond was not a tool to be exploited. It was a connection forged from courage, trust, and the willingness to act when everything seemed lost. Kelara, her strength restored and enhanced, moved beside him. "You have shown me what it means to trust in another, to act without certainty, and to endure against impossible odds," she said. "Together, we have changed more than this battle. We have changed perspectives, histories, and perhaps the future itself." Elias nodded. "Humans survive because we act, because we endure, because we refuse to let fear dictate our choices. That is why we are still here, why we are still relevant, and why we can still shape the future." As night fell over Violia, the outpost quiet but alert, Elias and Kelara looked to the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy watched, aware that humans were no longer the underestimated species they had been. The bond had proven that courage, adaptability, and empathy could combine with power to create something greater than either species alone. Humanity had not only survived, it had triumphed. And then, as if to mark the moment, the bond pulsed one last time that night, strong and steady, a rhythm that echoed through both human and Sarathi hearts. It was a reminder that the future was not written, that destiny could be shaped by courage, and that even a single human act could ripple across the galaxy. The victory on Violia was more than tactical, it was symbolic. Humans had faced impossible odds, and through ingenuity, courage, and unity, they had emerged stronger. Kelara, the princess who had once teetered on the edge of death, now stood as a living testament to what humans could accomplish. And Elias, the human who had offered his blood, had done more than save a life. He had shown the universe that humanity could influence destiny itself. In the days that followed, the bond stabilized, the connection between Elias and Kelara stronger than ever. They became ambassadors, teachers, and symbols of unity. The galaxy slowly began to acknowledge humanity not as a primitive species, but as a force of courage, adaptability, and hope. Rival factions reconsidered their strategies. The Sarathi Council opened dialogue, and humans across distant worlds realized that their potential was far greater than they had ever imagined. And so, on a storm-swept world far from Earth, a human and an alien princess stood together, bound not by obligation but by trust, courage, and the extraordinary potential of a species underestimated for too long. Humanity had proven once again that when faced with the impossible, they could survive, adapt, and triumph. The galaxy would never forget it. The bond that began with a single act of selfless courage, the offering of human blood to save a dying alien princess, had become a legacy. It was a legacy that would ripple through time, a testament to the strength of humanity, and a reminder to the stars that courage, empathy, and ingenuity could change the universe itself. Elias and Kelara gazed at the horizon, knowing that the future was vast, uncertain, and filled with challenges. But for the first time, they were ready. Together, they would face whatever the galaxy held, not just as a human and a Sarathi princess, but as a symbol of hope, strength, and the extraordinary possibilities that arise when courage meets opportunity. And somewhere, deep in the endless expanse of space, the galaxy watched, remembering the night a human offered his blood and changed the course of history forever.